So when you think of having foreplay to have even better intimacy, how do you do that as a man?
Yes, it's like it's the art of seduction, really, because it's not like there are moves, there are techniques that you can do, but a lot of it is also looking at like the energetics, looking at like how you can tease and seduce your partner into opening up, really. Because like foreplay in my eyes, from a man's perspective, is like, you know, you have this closed flower and you need to, you know, do some things that help that open that flower up.
I like that.
And so I think seduction is a large part of it. So it's not like, oh, you just need to do more fingering. You need to go down on your partner. You know, there's a lot of teasing.
Yeah.
So foreplay can be sending you a text message at lunchtime saying
Exactly.
like, what knickers are you wearing?
Because
Because that's foreplay, isn't it?
a lot of people think foreplay is oral sex before they can penetrate
Yeah,
someone.
let me just spit on that vagina so I can slip my willy in.
You're right, chap, today.
Well, making foreplay great again, so I want to be direct. Direct.
When was the last time in our intimate life that you felt like, yeah, nailed that?
Nailed that.
Nailed that foreplay.
Nailed that foreplay. 10 out of 10 foreplay.
Exactly. The art of seduction completed.
It's the art of seduction, and I think this goes. It's a good question. Maybe about 30 minutes ago.
I guess so. And what was, just for the audience, what made that great? What was like the little bits that you know?
Well, it was really like reading the room, knowing where the energy was at.
Right, and the energy was not that aroused yet.
It wasn't that aroused yet, but then there was an element of positioning myself in a certain way.
You mean like exerting a like nice level of dominance while reading the room?
Yeah, so
hot.
it was the element of like
That's
okay,
also lost art.
So I had in my mind of like, okay, I'm in a situation where, you know, some desire was really like bubbling up.
Let's say your desire scale for 1 to 10 was probably at an 8.
I was already really activated.
And I was probably at a 2.
You were at it too, yeah.
And I think that's probably quite a common situation. Not generalizing that all women and so on, but in our relationship, that's quite common. And I know with a lot of women I work with, it's also quite common.
Yeah.
That is just, it's not like they don't want to have sex, but they're just not like, boom, there at that 8 arousal.
Yeah, the arousal
It's like,
anatomy is much different for guys.
it's cooking a bit slower.
Yeah, it's a slow simmer, and guys is like cooking on gas.
Exactly.
Already our Bunsen burners blaring. Yeah, so I think there was a slight like letting you know what was my desire, and then you showing me that was okay, and then me acting on it.
Okay, that's a bit vague. So I
can't really spell it out that much.
Why not?
Well, yeah, okay.
Give me the details.
What's the details? Well, you were in the position, you were in between. You were in between my legs. I wasn't wearing any pants. I had a nice hard-on to be proud of.
Yes.
And I was there thinking like, yes, you know, a blowjob would be nice.
Yes,
in the
it would be
it would be nice. And there was a moment where
I was just playing with you.
you were just playing.
I wasn't really being like, yes, I'm gonna do this blowjob right now. I was more like, yeah, penis.
Yeah, you were like,
but friendly. I was in friendly
You're like
communication.
just like walking around the park. It was just enjoying
like,
things.
You know, I love your penis. So I'm like, yeah, you know, just appreciating it at this moment.
Yeah, and then there was a moment where I then like put my hand on the back of your head, and
you do know that's a big turn on for
I
you,
do
right?
know that's a big turn on for you. So and it's also a turn on for me. So I did do that on purpose.
Oh, but then you weren't going for anything. That's the art of
that's
it.
the art. Because I'm not just going to be like push it down. I was like, because you know you're still at a 2, and I know you're at a 2.
Yeah.
And I could be a 2.
Yeah, you can't push someone down when they're at a 2. You can do that when they're at maybe 6 or 7.
Well, it really depends
On obviously on the people, but
on your
just
person.
in the analogy of there's something that turns, it turns me on. So it could be for another woman, it could be something completely different that turns her on. And their partner knows it. And yet there is a time and a place to activate that turn on, right? So that's where you're saying you worded too. So I put my hand there, but I didn't do anything yet. I was still just
I
like
didn't. I was just holding.
heat ring around the
Yeah,
edges.
seducing. While being comfortable with the idea of this doesn't have to go anywhere.
Yeah, so the foreplay is not the blowjob. The foreplay is like just you having your hand there and like being present with that and kind of
Yeah, and
playing with
and
that
being
tension.
also very content with the idea of if you were like, right, no, let's go film this podcast, I'd be like, yeah, great, let's go do that. But then I did put my hand there, and then you put your hand on my hand as if to sign, like, you can push
hand
down.
is welcome
Your
here.
hand is welcome, and
Yeah.
that then activated a lot of things.
Yeah, that turn is bad. Which is funny because we started the podcast saying like people they think
I think it
that
was just oral.
it's just oral sex.
I know. So I think we've gone down. But this has just happened.
No, it's just like one moment.
Someone at the
Oh,
door.
someone's on the door. Should we pause the?
I think we can.
We can
pause.
cut this out, right?
Yeah.
Let me get to the door.
So.
Back on.
Yeah, I know we talked about how it's not all about oral, but that is literally just what happens. It's a real life event.
A real life event.
But it's not always like that.
No.
And going back to the art of seduction, I think this is a key part of foreplay, and especially for us, because I know you liked to be teased. I know you liked to be like flirted with. And I know that you find.
I like attention.
I know you like attention.
I'm definitely an attention whore.
So I know that these things are just like smart things to do if we're wanting to like get that arousal energy up.
Yeah, if you want
Or keep that arousal energy
have the
warm.
Yeah, get the fire going.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So-
do like attention.
Yeah, so I think dates, so I think like the foreplay, and it's classic really. It's like letting you know. So I know that in some dates it's like send you a text message, something a bit sexy and a bit arousing, a bit, risque maybe.
But naughty.
A bit naughty, and then have like some kind of date night where like I'm taking the lead. No, it doesn't have to be like major. It can just be like I'm doing stuff for you, or it could be like dancing, like all these things that I know that you enjoy that like activate you is all part of like foreplay.
Ooh, do you sometimes instigate a dancing with me because you're feeling like, oh, this could create like some beautiful erotic like energy between us?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Nice.
It's not like, it's not, see, like
The
foreplay is
point
not
is,
like
like, there's no,
stepping stones.
yeah,
it's not
it's
like
not the
going from A
expectation.
to B to C to D. It's like all about how to, as you said,
Nurturing.
like, nurturing.
It's nurturing the fire.
Nurturing.
And
that
then if
flame.
it like is a beautiful fire that day or next week, it doesn't really matter. But it's like if you don't nurture the fire, there's no passion to go from.
Yeah, and I think the key point is like you can't go from 0 to 100 really quickly.
Or yeah, most moments.
most
In
moments.
the majority of moments, that's not really available. For some people it is, but for many people it's not. So we're definitely on the nurture that fire in a 10-year relationship, especially,
Yeah.
You know what also coming to my mind is a very explicit example. We had this beautiful, we're kind of going through phases with what we're doing, right? So we had this phase where we did the 5 elements tantra massage on each other quite a lot. And we were in Mexico. And I remember you doing the elements on me. And then I was like, oh, this was nice. But I'm not particularly super roused. I'm like feeling amazing and I feel really close and I feel sensual, but I'm also feeling quite relaxed. It's not like, wow, I'm so turned on, I need to have intercourse with you. So then what I remember really was in this time happened a lot is that I would just you would just hold me for quite a while. And then in this holding, I would just give into the softness and give into the maybe even sleepiness or whatever was there, like totally surrendering into what is rather than what I think should be there. So that's like the biggest killer in foreplay for me is like thinking I have to be somewhere where I'm not yet. Like I should be more aroused.
Yeah.
Or you given me 1.5 hours of an erotic massage, I should be ready now for it. That's just absolute antidote. So in that time, what you did so well was like antidote to pleasure or to arousal. No, that's a wrong English word.
Think so,
Like it's the opposite.
The opposite.
It's like kryptonite to it.
Kryptonite.
Kryptonite.
Yeah. Kryptonite.
So just to keep it professional. So then what you did is you would just hold me. And then in that just being held and fully accepted and loved and like just so safe, my arousal would suddenly come up. Like even just 20 minutes, half an hour later. And super unexpected. And I feel like that's such a beautiful experience because that's kind of like that spontaneous, it's like nurtured, but then it arises just from nothingness, almost from relaxation.
Yeah.
And I think that's really nice foreplay when there's this unconditional giving of presence, of touch, of love, of nurture, of safety, of like care. And then there's so zero pressure and it's kind of like, and then it ignites.
Yeah, removing the expectation is key.
And then other day it doesn't ignite, but that's the whole point of
Doesn't matter.
no expectations, right? Because in my body it was so felt that both of us were completely content and complete. And then at the same time there was still the connection.
Yeah.
And then pew,
Then it happens.
and then it happened, yeah. That I actually felt like from my full heart, from my pussy, I wanted to also give you pleasure, to see you in pleasure.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I think that is, it's kind of like the reframing of just discarding this linear approach of stepping stones from A, B to C to climax, and then having expectation or shoulds being chucked out the door, chucked out the room, and then just that curious exploration of things that feel good, or service or giving, receiving, without the expectation that it's going to lead to something.
And I feel what women tell me sometimes is that they've experienced kind of the disappointment, almost like frustration, anger from men when there is this built up of tension of sexual energy, but then nothing happens from it. Do you feel like that's something that you alchemized for yourself or that you kind of...
Well, I think semen retention helps because once you're like removing the idea of ejaculation, you kind of like the idea of sex is really good and you want to do it, but I'm not really like pursuing it to have a climax.
To that goal, like
Yeah,
it's already less goal
and then it's
oriented.
massively less goal orientated.
That makes sense.
Yeah, but I do understand where that feeling comes from, and I think that is a particular. Yeah, I think there's an element of centering that energy, so bringing the energy in and circulating the energy that helps it stay more contained and more at the core instead of being more leaky.
Yeah.
Really, and I think, yeah,
Do you sometimes feel frustrated when it doesn't go anywhere?
No, I don't think so. There has been times where it's been frustrated where like we've been making love and like the energy's already been really high, and then I don't know, something's happened and it's become really like emotional, and I've been like, oh, it's gone from something like really pleasurable and like really nice for me to then something really emotional, and I had to like re-pivot.
And you're in this arousal.
I'm in this arousal
and you're
state,
like,
and then I'm like having to like now in the space with like tears and like crying and stuff, and I'm like, okay, I have
Can't
to like
be so quick. Huh?
I have to like reposition where I'm doing, and then I think there is an element of frustration.
Right.
But I don't know. I think I'm just again back to semen retention. I think there's an element of like really getting used to. I'm just really comfortable with the idea of feeling that sexual energy and like wanting to have more of it instead of like releasing it.
Yeah.
And so it's just like the frustration I think comes from the fixation with the release.
So
Because
your
there's
main
lots of-
tip for men who are listening, who feel like, oh yeah, this sounds all great, no goal, no expectations, but I feel like this kind of this like crunchiness when I am in this aroused space, and then it doesn't go where my urge, kind of my desire, wants to go.
Yeah, the two ones are basically semen retention and stop using porn.
You don't watch porn.
Because porn is like really,
Don't watch porn, lads.
really, it really affects your energy.
Yeah.
It's not just like an arousal thing. It's like
And the
it really,
containment,
really
right?
affects your energy.
Yeah.
Of like wanting, of like basically just really throws a spanner into your dopamine reward circuitry. So then you're like, you associate your pleasure with receiving a reward. So there's this like rush of dopamine, and you're more fixated on the dopamine than you are on the actual pleasure. And it's like, it just makes things really awkward, like really all over the shop.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're much more like, sexual energy is really powerful anyway. So if you're in a more contained way where you're don't have such crazy variables going on, imagery, fantasy, and just sexual energy that's kind of all over the shop, it's a lot easier to be like, oh, I had energy, it came up, and now it's going down. That's fine. It's not like, it's less of a big deal.
Yeah, it's so interesting, right? Because in my kind of world, there's so many women who feel like they're broken, and if the sex life isn't what people think it should be, women often come to me like, oh, I need to fix this, I don't have enough desire, or I don't really want sex, and that's my problem. And often their partners are happy for the women to fix a solution, but they're not necessarily feeling like it's also their part, that they could just work together on this thing to make it really beautiful. And what I was recently thinking about is like, wow, there's so many men who have never, and women of course, but so many men who've never had the experience of a woman like fully surrendering to them, like giving them their whole body. They're really from authenticity, like their whole like slut energy, like all of it, because it needs so much safety and trust, and it needs for men to, what you're saying, like really put no pressure, put no expectations, like hold them when they cry, hold them when they orgasm, like hold this containment when they're like giving them really, I feel like women want to, like a lot of women really innately want to serve and want to please, and in the sense of please, not to be a people pleaser, but to please in the sense of like, for men to have this like intense arousal growing, and for women to like feed it, and it's just so ecstatic. And it was kind of funny because in the last Tantra training that I was holding 2 weeks ago, we had 12 people and 2 men, and one was facilitating. So we had only 1 man being a participant. And we had a temple night, and there were like 10 women dressed in lingerie. And I remember him coming in, and his main sentence throughout the whole day, was just like, what is he saying? He was just like, he was just like, fucking hell. I think that was it. He was just like, so like, he was just like, wow. Because the first night it was like, oh, dress like you're going to a date. And it was kind of like a temple, but everyone did their own self-pleasure. And he just came in and we were all in lingerie, and he was like, this is what you guys wear on a date? And we were just kind of giving him a hug and like hanging out with him and being like, just that's what you can receive as a man if you're willing to look at your own shit, if you're willing to learn about sexuality, if you're willing to learn about tantra, if you're willing to learn about conscious relating, if you wanna also be in this space, you can be this man in a room full of 10 women dressed in lingerie being like, let's have some fun.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And so one woman was saying that she was like, oh, we should just take a photo and be like, hey guys, this is what it can look like if you're up for also doing some work.
Yeah, no, I think that would be nice, but I think then a lot of guys would be like, "Oh God, a lot of people go to this like tantra things thinking that it's going to be like this, and then are really upset when it's not, or they don't get their desires met." So I think there is an issue.
But it was a training for personal growth, and the temples were like on top of it, I guess. Whereas I think the type of men that you're saying is more often specifically on Tantra festivals or temple nights that are just without the personal growth factor.
So let's bring it back to making foreplay great again. How would you make it
Yes.
great again? What could I do
So
to make it great again?
I feel foreplay is really, I'm always rewarded in the process of foreplay when I'm really honest about what's actually going on for me. Because in reality, it's not, oh, the guy's overriding my body's signals, you're going too fast, you're not doing this or that. It's like, it's a complete co-creation, right? So today, for example, you were kind of about to penetrate me, and there was a part of me in the, it's still an ongoing process for me of like kind of going along with it, even though I'm not like super craving it, but I'm also like, yeah, you know, my pussy is open, we can have this experience. But today, for example, I said, I'm not ready yet, and then you just paused exactly where you were, and just feeling the tip of your penis just touching me and you kissing me, it was ecstatic. Like the pleasure built like so much. Again, this is obviously not foreplay, this is already really far into having sex. But I think that moment is just the authenticity to really be true to what I'm actually experiencing, like real time, and to communicate that. And that really stokes the fire for me of like desire, because then it's like, it's just this pause is exactly what I needed. And I feel when we're 20 minutes earlier, when you were kind of, when I noticed that you were really aroused and I wasn't, I think I also said something. I can't remember what I said, but I think I also said something about, or maybe it was another time, but just like saying like, hey, I really wanna like connect and I really want to have pleasure, and I'm like pretty low key right now. So I feel getting that off my chest sometimes makes foreplay really great, because it takes away all the pressure and like getting into my head, and it's just saying where I'm at, and for that to be perfectly fine, and for you to kind of have that information, and no, it's not a big deal, it's just the reality of the situation.
Yeah.
That helps me. What I also really like is, yeah, it's kind of more selfishness. I've noticed when I, from my head, I'm like, oh, I do want to have sex. I want to have pleasure with you. I want to connect. I want it because I want to feel this closeness, and I want to feel this kind of like goofy, giddy energy afterwards, and you know, but my body isn't really on board yet. What I also really enjoy is taking pleasure from you.
Yeah.
So that, just for anyone who's not so much into the world of taking pleasure, that means Patrick's lying down and I'm using my whole body like a cat on a couch to rub myself into his body in a way that gives me pleasure. So that can be, for example, my cheek on his chest hair, or it can be my breasts over your torso, sometimes also full body. Like I'm like just kind of moving my breasts over your body because my breasts are really sensitive, and I feel a lot there. It can also be, usually it starts with my forehead and kind of side of my face and lips, like just using your body to kind of caress my own lips. That's something that makes foreplay really great for me. And I think definitely what you said before, like way outside, way before we're even in the bedroom or anywhere, like to hold eye contact and to kind of let this, it could be almost tacky, you know, to look into each other's eyes for so long. Cheesy, yeah, it could almost be like, yeah, this like cliche romantic moment. But it does work for me. You know, if we're like sitting and we're having a meal together or something, and we're just looking into each other's eyes, and it's a little longer than usual, and it's just a moment where I feel really seen, and I also feel like the everyday life is kind of fading away a bit.
I like kissing.
Kissing does it for me as well.
I think kissing is number one.
I could be honestly. I really enjoy public snogs. I think it's a bit of an edge for you sometimes. Public snogging.
Well, depends where it is.
Yeah, if you feel it's appropriate, I respect that. But I think my kind of level of is it appropriate to have a snog here is quite like more. It's a bit more easy than yours.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, some places it's just not right. Not like as bad, not like at the swimming pool where there's no heavy petting,
Yeah.
but it's just like, you know. Yeah, sometimes I just feel a bit self-conscious where it's like, you know, at the airport when someone like when you've like we're seeing each other for the first time and then it's like, you know, I don't know, I just kind of feel a bit self-conscious with it. But in other places I'm happy to go full snog.
Full snog. And also the full snog I really enjoy again. The anticipation is the art of seduction, right? It's like what you don't get just yet. So when the lips are just brushing or you feel the breath and then you go in for the snog. So like the almost snog is kind of more arousing sometimes for me than the actual snog.
I like the snog. I like the tongue and tongue. I think there's like a lot of connection there. And it's like, I think it feels really good on my tongue. And then it sends that pleasure throughout my whole body. And it's really intimate. It's like, wow, my tongue's in your mouth.
Yeah, that's true.
It's like, wow.
And also if it's a good snog, I really like feel it directly in my clitoris. I really feel it in my pussy, which didn't used to be like that. It's obviously a result of all
Good
the
snogging.
all the good snogging and all the like not being numb anymore in my genitals. But yeah.
Because that's what they have in like, you know, the proper, you know, the Diana and Michael Richardson tantra books. It's like their tantra snogging is like tantra kissing is like you kiss the whole time and your tongues stay connected while making love the whole time.
Oh wow. Let's
Like
try that.
you just don't let go.
You just don't let go and don't let go.
Yeah, it does make sense. I wonder how that would work with the microcosmic orbit if your tongues were touching each other. Would that
It's like
would that be the
perfect
circuit breaker?
Yeah, Minka says that. Minka DeVos, one of our tantric teachers, Tao tantric teachers, she says that it's the energy connection on the tongues. Yeah,
Yeah, it makes
that's
sense.
why it's so electric, because it's like your main meridian flows, like your energetic channels are hooking up.
Yeah, but I'm just wondering whether I'm getting a bit more. Is like if you're running the circuit within yourself and you don't have the tongue on top of your mouth, then will that complete your circuit?
No, I think you're running the circuit with
Through
the
everyone.
other person.
Yeah, I know, but then
And that's
yeah.
why it's ecstatic, because your energies are like.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Because you're plugged in at the base already.
Yeah.
So you're already running the energy through both bodies at the base, at the root. And then you're also connecting at the top. So you're
Yeah, no, it's true. Yeah,
closing the circuit. Yeah.
beautiful. I think that's
I think one last thing that's really hot for foreplay is what you, just to close this, one more tip. Is the game that we used to play, which is the yin and yang game. So we'd love you to actually bring that back. As I said, we're going through phases with exploration. It means you touched on it by saying, oh, when you choose where to go and you choose certain things, it kind of turns me on to be in surrender
Go full
to
yang.
the experience, and you are kind of in control with even just with decision making. And I feel that's a really great concept, because you can switch it around how you want to, but to have a date where one person decides everything and the other person follows, and you agree on a time frame for that. So to be really clear, you're like, oh, for an hour, 2 hours, you are the yang part, I'm the yin part, or I'm the yang part. And it's really fun. I love it. When I'm the yang part, I'm like, you're gonna wear this, this, and this. And I'm even deciding like which part of the road we're crossing. I'm deciding everything. And it's It's about polarity, that one, because we haven't spoken so much about polarity and foreplay today. But yeah, it's about the play between lead and follow, go and flow.
Maybe we should talk about polarity because everyone's talking about polarity. It's so hot right now.
Everyone's talking a lot of shit about polarity as well.
Whoa,
Wow.
whoa. Shots fired.
I know. I just can't handle it when it's so 1950s, you know.
What do you mean about trad?
Yeah, when it's just
Let's
like,
make trad great again.
the women needs to be this and the man needs to be this. It's like, come on, guys, 2025.
Yeah, I don't really get the whole
Let's
role
not get
thing.
dogmatic about this shit.
Yeah, the whole role things. Because that's the thing. Like, it's always an interesting one. Because I do work with a lot of guys, obviously, and they're like, I need to be more masculine, and I'm always like, well, I know what they mean, but I'm also like, what do you mean by that? What do you mean by that? What do you mean? Well, like my partner's like, they say that their partner says, oh, you know, I need you to step more into this masculine role. And it's like, it's quite confusing because it's like, everyone's so different and everyone is who they are. And I think everyone has a composition that is uniquely them. And I don't really adhere to following particular stereotypes or pigeonholing people to be certain things to like.
Yeah.
But I think it does. I think the only place that it does really make a lot of sense in polarity is with sexual energy.
It is in the bedroom,
in the bedroom. Because you do, it is good to have someone taking lead and someone following.
And it's great in foreplay outside the bedroom as well, where it's not really that great. It's like in the general sense of adulting. You know, you're your full person. So for me as a woman to like surrender when I make big decisions for my business is maybe not the right energy to be in, you know, to wait for someone else to lead me. It's like maybe I need to lead myself in this moment.
And I think that's the thing about polarity really is like you have both of it, these masculine and feminine energies, and they can switch in between and you can play with it. So you do have times where you can be more in one energy and you have times where you can be in the other energy. But I remember,
But that's the real meaning of like being in your divine feminine or divine masculine. It means being able to choose to go fully into the embodiment of one extreme so that you can have a really big polarity. So when you are putting your hand on my head, I'm choosing to go into this subspace, into this gooiness of like, hey, take me, I'm here, I'm yours, you know, I'm melting. And it's a choice and it's delicious, but it's really beautiful in that moment. And a couple of hours later, if we're sitting in the cafe and we're talking about some business stuff, it's just not appropriate for me to be all just gooey and wanting to be led.
Yeah, completely.
It's just
And I think that's what it is. So when people say like, "Oh, I need to be more masculine," I just say, "No, you need to be more you and own it." And that means being whatever is your authentic self and owning that and also realizing that you can play with both.
Yeah.
So if your authentic self is to be more in that flow, then be that and radiate that authentically and beautifully. But if you do want to be more directional, then realize that you have the capability of doing that and play with it. Be more directional. Go into the shop and don't spend 20 minutes trying to buy a bloody chocolate bar. Choose your chocolate bar. Eat it. Be proud of it. Pay for it. And then
Get it done.
get it done. Job's done. Or be flowy, be in that state, and then realize that you maybe want to be in this yang, in this masculine, and organize a date night with your partner and make all the decisions with confidence and directness and play with that. But realize that that doesn't mean that you're being more of a man or more masculine. It just means that
You're already a man.
you're already that, you know?
Yeah. It's like, yeah, totally. I agree with you. It's like really figuring out like, what does she mean by that, right? Like, I need you to be more masculine. In what moments? For what purpose? You know, for her to feel what? So it's sometimes a bit of a cop out also for women to take responsibility. And I think just to be an adult, basically. Yeah. And I think it's sometimes also quite unfair to pick like certain characteristics about what it apparently means to be masculine in this kind of neo-spiritual chat. And to be like, oh, I need you to be more masculine, but also emotionally available. And it's like, what is someone already doing? Some men are really, really evolved, I guess, in being a provider, right? They've got that figured out. And they're providing money and the house and safety and whatever, all kind of material things maybe. But they might not be so evolved yet in providing emotional safety. And so it's also seeing that it's not a buffet where we can just like demand for everything to be 100%, but it's like a full human who has, just as me as a woman, there's moments in which I'm really easy in my softness and receiving you and being in this kind of softness basically. And then there's places where I'm just really uptight and hard. And I deserve to be loved even though I'm not like perfectly fitting that box. And I also deserve to have a beautiful sex life even though I don't fit perfectly into this like
And you never make cookies.
tantra box, you
You
know.
never make cookies.
I never cook even like properly for us, like once in a month maybe. So anyway, there's like a lot of
Let's bring this back to foreplay.
yeah.
Polarity, foreplay. How does it work? I think it does. I think polarity is important with the yin and yang game.
It works really well.
It
in
works
lap
really
dances.
well in lap dances.
That
yeah.
really gets me going.
Yeah.
So for example, in a foreplay sense, if I'm really feeling the pleasure of my body moving and you're observing that, hot.
So
That's
energy,
a solid polarity in foreplay.
energy and observer
Yes, witnesser and pleasure
and doer,
conductor.
pleasure conductor, and then
Just
witnessing
like
that.
you witnessing how much pleasure I have moving my body.
Yeah,
Exquisite.
yeah. And I suppose tying it all together back to the beginning, me observing, reading the room at the beginning an hour ago, and then realizing that it was an appropriate time to take the lead and be somewhat assertive of pushing your head down when I knew it was right was arousing for you. It was
It
arousing
was
for me.
super hot. That got me from being maybe 3 aroused to like 7.
So there is an element of that, like making a decision and going for it, assertiveness, but within that within that area of safety, because you know you're reading the room, you're not just going in full guns blazing.
No, you were taking me there.
Taking you there.
You were taking me there.
I took you there. Shall we snog?
Let's snug. Let's complete this podcast. Thanks for listening, guys.
See you next time. Stop watching.